Welcome to B2B Commerce Corner. Commerce Corner is a sub-series of the E-Commerce Edge podcast discussing all things B2B commerce through the lens of agencies, consultants, merchants, and more. Enjoy. Mr. Nick Pericle, I have been wanting to, I would normally do like a full-blown introduction or whatever, but I feel like it's imperative for me to say that I have unwittingly and unknowingly turned into a bit of a Nick fanboy over the last 6 months. I don't even remember how exactly you burst onto my feed. It was via somebody else who commented, I think, on one of your LinkedIn posts, and I was exposed to your content on LinkedIn through that connection somehow. We connected on LinkedIn. I knew that you had some connections also with the B2B EA, as do I. And Mr. Nick Pericle, welcome to the bloody podcast. I have been looking forward to this for a while. We finally were able to make our calendars connect.
Jason, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on. Looking forward to getting into all the fun things today. Let's jump into it.
Absolutely. Now, I think of you, if I had to give you like a name or a superpower,
Put me into a box, Jason. You're going to put me into a box
no,
already?
not a box, but I'm going to put a cape on you.
Okay, there we go. I like
And
that.
I'm going to call you Mr. AI for B2B distribution. That when I think of you, that's what I think of. And look, I think obviously you're Mr. AI full stop, but I think I almost consider you Mr. Practical AI for distribution, because when I see the content that you're putting out, when I see the events that you're attending, when I see what you're talking about, the topics, the focus areas, the real practical demos of existing AI technology and how that is impacting the distribution space now and how it is likely to impact the distribution space in the future. How the heck did you decide, and at what point did you decide to double and triple down on this whole AI thing, specifically targeted at the distribution industry?
Oh man, that what you're going through right there and what you explained is the power of consistency in branding. So it was about 2 years ago, and I'll go through my whole story here, but 2 years ago I sat down with our chief marketing officer and we were talking, what type of brand do you want to have, Nick, in the space? And we overlapped and put a bunch of Venn diagrams up on the board. I love whiteboards, by the way, Jason. It's like the number one place where I can put my ideas down, see them visualized. So we did this and we put on there technology, distribution, AI, leadership, change. And he brought up to me and said, "Hey, why don't you start writing on LinkedIn?" So that was the first place that I had gotten that idea from. Over the last 2 years, we're now talking Q4 2025, but over the last 2 years, been pretty consistent on that. My story and how those words got in those circles on that whiteboard is because for the last 10, 11 years, I've been working in distribution, working on databases, building out applications, going on site. That's one of my favorite things to do, is being on site with a customer. You can be on Zoom calls, you can be looking at their data underneath the hood, you can be working on your own technology application, integrating it in, but being on site and actually seeing what happens at one of these organizations, how they work, how they think, how their leadership structure is, the types of products that they sell, how their warehouse is set up. All of that provides such a good picture for you then to make technology work. I brought that together with this viewpoint that I had a few years ago, and I've since become a lot more confident in. And it's that every organization is underestimating just how powerful AI can be, and they're looking for places to get answers to it. And the only places that they're finding direction on what you can do with AI, how you can solve it, is from point solutions, product companies, which is absolutely part of the equation. But I think there's a lot more that you can do. And I think there's a lot that AI is going to continue to enable these really important companies to the American economy and just to our way of life and how we live in supplying products and essential goods and services. So I put all of that together and I said, let's go out there and make sure that they can ride this wave of AI into the intelligence age and do it in a way that's really going to benefit them.
I love that. I love that. And we could go down many different rabbit trails here, and we will go down a few during this conversation. But I want
Yeah.
to start with the challenges that I am seeing, because I'm in the B2B consulting space myself, with
Yep.
manufacturers and distributors. Don't just work with distribution, also work with manufacturers and wholesalers. But One of the things that I'm seeing, especially now as I become more involved in the B2B EA, went to the amazing B2B e-commerce world event down in Melbourne. And of course, I'm going to be in Scottsdale alongside you
Yep.
next month. And I'm really looking forward to that. And the B2B EA is doing a really good job of elevating the practitioners in our industry and putting the spotlight on them and the good work they're doing inside their organizations.
Yeah.
But one of the things that came up in Melbourne consistently over and over again, and I'm thinking of one specific presentation that was made by a company, a distribution company, who had been on a multi-year journey to integrate AI into their business in practical ways. But even though the mandate, and it was actually the CEO on the stage talking about AI and what they were doing in their business around AI, and yet even he, and even with a absolute clear mandate from the board, we will use AI in every area possible inside our business to make us more efficient and to serve our customers better. Even they were struggling with and continue to struggle with how to integrate AI meaningfully into their business with any kind of reasonable governance structure. And they were struggling with which AI technologies do we deploy given that we're a Microsoft shop.
Yep.
So by default, we all have access to Copilot. But yet, a lot of our team don't want to use Copilot. They want to use ChatGPT. They want to use their favorite tech. They want to use Gemini. They want to use Grok. They want to use these role specific or function specific AI point solutions to help them be more efficient. And they're saying that's what we're struggling with. We are struggling with, even though we have deployed AI significantly across our business, we continue to struggle the balance between encouraging AI curiosity and an AI first mindset amongst our team members and bringing any kind of reasonable governance so that AI doesn't just turn into another form of shadow IT in our business. And that was the discussion for 3 days. That
Yep.
was the discussion. Everybody was saying, we want to do this. We need to do this. We know we have to do this. It was like, we missed the mobile revolution. We ain't going to miss this one. But there is this massive tension between AI curiosity and AI governance. And that's where I feel like a lot of these distributors are stuck.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of kind of some butting of heads, if you will, between those two factors because this has the capability and I believe will fulfill the potential of being a revolutionary technology. At the same time, I think you got to understand an organization like a distributor is naturally hesitant to make investments in technology, especially if those investments aren't going to directly lead to lowering of cost or increasing revenue in those areas. And so AI as an overall component, and we probably should break down to say there's a lot of different areas of AI. I recognize for maybe some of the listeners here, the area that I specifically focus on is how to use generative AI, this new technology, these large language models, how to incorporate it thoughtfully into the business and do so in a way that you don't end up with a spider web of different technologies, but there's much more of a strategy and a phased rollout while you're doing two things. You're seeing benefit in the business and you're also biding your time a little bit because the technology continues to advance at a rate that nobody can keep up with at this point in time. So it's encouraging to hear that our friends down under are going through the same types of things that I see with the clients that I work with that I read about in the Wall Street Journal where there's such a revolution that's happening with the core technology. There's more pressure than we've seen in a long time from people who aren't technologists creating technology mandates in an organization. You will do AI. We will do AI, but there's a big gap in the middle. And
Yes.
that's where we've really found a strong area that many companies are willing to spend money and make investments because they believe in the potential of it, but getting from where they are right now, understanding what the risks are, knowing that if they go out and buy, let's call it an order entry automation system, if they buy an intelligent CRM that has strong follow-up capabilities and it will provide information on who your customer is, what they should buy, what their ideal products are. Those are great tools and great capabilities that every organization would benefit from in having it. The distributor at the same time is saying, I want to make sure that I'm not just going to buy those two, but I'm doing anything that I can in the right order. So there's a sequencing aspect to this that I think we often overlook. And it's where a lot of my friends that I work with in at various technology companies that are serving distribution. They're trying to fill that gap, but it's within the certain function that they're servicing. So whether that's demand planning, whether that's sales, whether that's on the pricing side,
Product enrichment, all that stuff.
enrichment, e-commerce, whatever it is, customer journey, but it's not holistic.
Yes.
So certainly have some opinions on kind of where this is going, what a company could do now, but we'll get into all that together. But again, I I don't know whether to feel good that our Aussie friends are struggling with the same types of things that the companies here in America are, but I guess we're all in this together.
We are. Now, I was also in Chicago just a few weeks ago, and I was emceeing a private AI symposium,
Okay.
and it was co-hosted by Google. We were actually at the Google offices. It's my first time I've ever been
Very
inside of a
cool. Yeah,
Google office.
those offices are something else, huh?
They're incredible. It was the first
Yeah.
time in 25 years, the first time I've ever been in the belly of the beast. And it was co-hosted by them, Grid Dynamics, and ECOMMERCE. And so they were all talking about some of their AI technologies and the direction that they're trying to move the industry in, and some of the tooling and enablement that they're trying to inject into the respective industries that they serve. But what was interesting was when we got to one of the panel sessions, where a representative from all three of those companies were up there, and it was almost like a fireside chat. And then we turned it over to the audience. There was somebody in the very, very back of the room. He didn't tell me which company he was from, but he stood up and he said, "Look, we're a multi-billion-dollar manufacturer based here in Chicago, and we're looking at and exploring every single opportunity to integrate AI into our business. But the challenge we're facing is almost every single vendor and almost every single proof of concept we consider is a multi-month and or year and multi-million dollar proof of concept." And he said, we got a quote from someone recently. It was a $5 million proof of concept of a new AI
Yeah.
function. And we all gasped. Even the woman from Google said, sorry. And I said, from my experience, I'm helping my customers with AI proof of concepts almost every single day. And they're costing a tiny little
Fraction of
fraction
that.
of
Yeah.
that. And they're getting live with basic proofs of concept in months, not quarters or
Yeah.
years. And and our take on this was not just that the costs that they had been quoted and maybe the scope of those proof of concepts were wild, but more importantly, what we tried to communicate to this gentleman was this technology is moving far too fast for you to put such a massive effort behind a proof of concept when by the time you go live with this proof of concept for testing, that technology will most likely have moved on. So if you're looking at a 9-month proof of concept, that is too long.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at a $5 million proof of concept, that's too much because you need to be able to pivot very quickly. If you find out this proof of concept doesn't work, you need to be able to go down a different path. And so, what is your take? Would you perhaps have distribution clients who come to you and they say, hey, look, we want to just test. We want to dip our toes in the water of a few of these different things, see what works, see what doesn't, see what is worthy of broader deployment in the business. But we want you to help us define a bit of a strategic roadmap of what do we start with? Because most of these businesses, they realize that they need to crawl, walk, run. They can't go
Yep.
straight to, they're not going to become Usain Bolt overnight. And what do you tell them when they come to you and they go, we don't want to bet the farm on any one of these initiatives, but we know we need to start testing yesterday?
Yeah. Oh man, there's a lot of thoughts that I have on this. The first thought that I have is most organizations are conflating typical digital transformation, just good data practices, automation with AI. And I see this because when I engage with an organization and I ask them, where can AI help? Their mind immediately goes to automations. I
Mhm.
want it to automate my order entry. I want it to automate my procurement. I want it to optimize my inventory. I want it to optimize my pricing. So whether that's automation or more traditional machine learning, that's not generative AI in these areas. Can generative AI be a part of it? Yeah, it definitely can help. And it can actually play a pretty big role depending on how you look at it. But most businesses, when they think about the capabilities of AI, they're thinking automation.
Mhm.
And that's the reality among a lot of distributors where there's one organization, just an example, where they have an IT team, they're doing some product development on their e-commerce site, and they wanted AI to help them with their tickets, but they weren't using their ticket manager appropriately. So AI can come in and it can analyze what some of these tickets are, but if you're not logging information and you're not capturing that data,
You're not tagging things
you're not
properly. You're
tagging,
not.
you're not setting that up appropriately, all of that. So I think that's a huge takeaway that I've had is most leaders, this is uncomfortable and I say this humbly, but most leaders don't really understand the capabilities of AI.
Mhm.
And I oftentimes meet people that they're pretty confident in what AI can do, or they summarily dismiss it and say, yeah, everything's AI, it's snake oil. We're doing AI. And yes, every single business who is using some form of AI right now, I don't care if you're a brand new business that just started up. Why are you using AI? Because when you sign up for a credit card, when you do credit limits,
Yes.
they've used AI in order to do that. It's protecting your banking. It's making sure that you have cybersecurity baked into your Microsoft. So everyone's using it somehow. What we're really looking for is where can you use it to differentiate? So you ask, how can a business understand what some of these use cases are? How can they use these? This is really unpopular when I first share it, what I'm about to tell you. And I get a lot of kind of wave off or saying, oh, I don't really need to do that. There's a story in the Bible that I like to pull from. So it's a Syrian commander, Naaman, and he had leprosy. Leprosy, we don't get that in America these days, but really poor condition of the skin. He had leprosy. So he goes to the prophet at the time, Elisha, and he asks him, hey, what should I do in order to get rid of
Be
leprosy?
healed.
And Elisha tells him, just go bathe in the River Jordan 7 times. And what does Elisha do? He goes, or what does Naaman do? I'm not going to do that. That's too simple.
Ridiculous.
That's too simple. And then his servant asks him and says, if he asked you to do some great thing, would you do it? He's like, yeah, I would do a big thing. But why am I going to go do this simple thing? And anyways, the story goes, Naaman goes, he bathes in the river, and then it's done. The principle from that is we're skipping over a lot of simple activities that can be done that you can get a majority of the benefit from. What do I mean by this? If there is a use case that you believe AI can help your business with, you can go model most of that use case in ChatGPT right now or in Copilot right now. You can't do all the fancy integrations, the automations, tapping into your email, all things like that. But if you believe, let's just say, for example, that every email that comes into customer service, you can tag, you can have it then go look up that information within your ERP and bring it back over. You can model that in Chat GPT. It shouldn't take you more than 2 days to do that. Go set someone on it, go model it in 2 days. Once you've nailed that, then you can go look to that next phase, go use Chat GPT's or OpenAI's agent builder in order to integrate that through. Go use a platform like N8N that exists. Most distributors and industrial companies are looking to the ways that they've typically engaged with software vendors, which is you'll go to a large scale ERP. They're
Mhm.
used to a lengthy deployment process and
Mhm.
how they do that. And to be honest, Jason, I believe that there's a lot of just fundamental infrastructure that's needed in order to do an AI use case at scale across an
Yes.
organization. But I would also say I'd be hesitant on fully rolling something like that out because the underlying technology, the infrastructure itself continues to change. And for example, there's a solution that I spent quite a bit of time on, we invested in, that was this customer service tool that would go in, it would read customer service emails, or if you had a ticket manager
Ticketing
that it would come
system or
into,
whatever.
yeah, it would read it, classify it, categorize it, and then essentially go look for the information within a tool set. We did that before MCP servers existed.
Yep.
We did this before Agent Builder existed. And that has us questioning the full value there, where we now believe, and I believe this for a long time, but I'm personally experiencing it, where something that we built out and we invested got steamrolled by net new AI capability.
Yep.
Really, where the differentiation layer is and how well you integrate into your data sources, and not the vertical nuance of like plumbing distribution or electrical or electronic components distribution, but in the company context. What is it about that specific organization, how they're set up, where they're making decisions, where their data lives, how they like to do business, how they phrase things, all that sort of stuff? I don't know if it's going to solve for that at a foundation model layer, meaning like open, if you were to integrate with OpenAI or you name your other model, Anthropic, Gemini, whatever it is, it's not going to have that without some significant training on top of it. That's where you want to make sure you invest your time while the underlying infrastructure continues to advance.
And that leads me to the next topic that I think is really relevant today, which is this whole build versus buy model,
Oh
right?
man, yeah.
And most orgs, distribution orgs, manufacturing orgs, they are really struggling with that right now. And let me give you just one example.
Sure.
So, in your customer service example, I might be running Gorgeous today. I might be running Zendesk today. I might be running something hanging off my ERP/CRM where it's got a help desk in there, it's got a knowledge base in there, whatever it might be. And early on, maybe going back, say, a year and a half ago, a lot of businesses were going, how can we integrate AI into our customer service workflows? And then literally within 6 months after that, the likes of Zendesk and Gorgeous and a few others,
They rolled the functionality out, right? Yeah.
and it's native to the platform now.
Yeah.
So they will auto track, they will auto classify, it will auto link to your. Even now, what Gorgeous has done is they've linked their chatbot functionality to their help desk functionality to their knowledge base functionality, so that those all can be linked together.
Yeah,
To
it's a
where
full end-to-end.
it's a
Yeah.
full workflow, right? And it's all AI first,
Yeah.
meaning that they're using large language models inside the platform to make sure
Yep.
that they can bring nuance to the responses that they're giving to the customer in the
Yeah.
first instance, first line support, right? And
Yep.
so anybody who put a whole lot of investment into custom AIs and custom agentic workflows a year and a half ago on top of their help desk probably feels like maybe that investment was wasted. And my argument would be, and I'd love your take on this,
Sure.
my argument would be, no, it wasn't wasted because you learned something. You learned what you needed from a tool like a Gorgeous or a Zendesk or any other technology you're looking at. You learned what you needed from that technology as an MVP to be able to do what you wanted it to do. And if you hadn't gone
Yeah.
through that exercise of trying to create that yourself, you wouldn't be in a position to be able to make a really good platform purchasing decision.
And there's some informational power that it gives you. The tough part is learning doesn't show up in a P&L. Like
Yes,
the L,
that's the challenge.
the L in P&L actually, that's probably where learning goes. And that's a negative thing, right? Learning is spelled in red ink for most of an organization. Unfortunately, I think that's part of the reality of the model that we live in. I'm right there with you that organizations are spending more on travel. They're spending on lunches. They're spending on areas of the business. I've challenged organizations to say, you're in your 2026 budgeting cycle right now. Why not put $100,000 towards AI, exploring AI capabilities?
Yeah. AI
With
test and learn.
AI test learn, with no expectation that there's a return on that, other
Totally.
than chalk it up to employee satisfaction, chalk it up to, hey, we're going to strengthen our position on this. We have an education budget that we have. Find some way to pull that together. Do your lunch and learns. Yeah, you can find some amount of money in that, and then see how much you can get done for 10 different proofs of concept for $10,000 each.
Yeah.
And then once you find one that you've really nailed, then go look at it. So I think there's something to be said for that. But again, that's different than every dollar needs to be tied to an ROI. I hear that a lot.
Yes.
And AI is moving so quickly and people don't understand it. So it's challenging that notion there. When you ask about the build versus buy, there's a lot that can be done. Again, it sounds so simple, but there's a lot that can be done by signing up for an LLM, training your team on it, and using the capabilities of custom GPTs, agent builder. If you're using Anthropic, the, Anthropic just rolled out this new tool called Skills, where you can build into it the capability for it to take action within other applications. So you
Yes.
can say, go create for me a really PowerPoint with this branding guideline. And these are capabilities that, you know, most people don't know that you can do all of this, and they're looking for the larger platform. One area that I find distributors don't have good muscle in is when they buy a solution set or as part of their IT operations, we don't talk about sunsetting technology enough. And a reality right now is when you buy a tool set, you should plan to have a regular review to see if that tool is no longer relevant or if there is
Mhm.
a new, better option on the market. I don't think distributors hold their technology partners accountable enough. Although I say that, I've seen ERP companies get their feet held to the fire.
Once every 5 to 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, once every 5 to 10 years. I think industrial organizations have much more power than they realize with technology companies, where they can go to an organization, ask to be part of their roadmap, ask to know what is on their roadmap, what's happening. And one of the side effects of AI being out there is that there's going to be a proliferation, massive increase in purpose-built technology, not just for distribution as an industry, but for verticals also within distribution. So,
Yep.
just for example, I recently heard, and if they're listening to this, I'd love to talk to these guys. They're a technology platform. It's an ERP for independent lumber yards. Like
Wow.
there's ERPs for lumber yards. I totally get that. But independent lumber yards that run a couple different locations that aren't massive, the niche on niche is going to continue to happen because of what AI is doing to software development. This is difficult for distributors that buy technology on a cyclical cycle, or
Yes.
they buy it
Cyclical
cyclically,
basis.
and they buy it once and they set it and forget it, or they
Yep.
get their continued upgrades from it. The speed at which technology is becoming available it's difficult, and I think it's actually causing many organizations to pause and to say, hey, we kind of want to wait and see. And wait and see is definitely a strategy that you can take. I recommend, if you're going to wait and see, go beat the heck out of whatever LLM tool you're using.
Yes.
Try and build some of these functionalities out so that you can be in a better educated spot when you go talk to these vendors. Too many distributors they're asking to be educated on core capabilities of AI by their technology partners. And I don't think that's wise. I think a distributor should be independently knowledgeable of what can AI do, what can it not do, so that when they go do the dance with general technology partners, and I'm massive fans of many of these organizations, but I tell them the same thing. eh, If you find that an organization isn't educated, give them options. You're going to build credibility, you're going to build trust, and that's how this industry engages on technology, with people they trust. It's not always with the best tech.
I think you've just described what I see every single day in manufacturing and distribution, which is massive amounts of technical debt. And,
Oh yeah.
oftentimes they don't even know how much technical debt they have until they bring in someone like you or someone like me. We start reviewing their current state of play and we do a deep dive discovery across their entire business. And when I do a discovery, it's people, process, tech, and data. Those are the four pillars
Yep.
of my discovery. And we go deep and we peel the onion back on all four of those areas. And oftentimes they come away from discovery going, I didn't even know that about my own business. I
Yeah.
didn't know that was a process we did. I didn't know that was a technology we used. This grew
Yeah.
organically inside the business. And so when a CEO or the leadership team is inside some of these discovery sessions, they go, wow, I learned more about my business just going through discovery with you than I probably ever knew about my business from a
And I
holistic
really
perspective.
admire when the leadership team allows that process to happen. Because a lot of times I actually get why organizations get into tech debts when they allow that to happen. It's because the business is working.
Yeah.
Regardless of technology. Like, the purpose of running a distributor is not to have the best technology platform. It's
Yeah.
not even to have a good technology platform. It's to make sure that your customers are getting the right product at the right price at the right time. And when they have a problem, that you have the infrastructure and the operational support system in order to solve that. And to do it while hopefully eking out a margin.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of this. And when I meet an organization that's running off of a version of Epicor that ChatGPT is like, whoa, I haven't been asked about that one in a long time.
Yes.
I totally empathize with them. And I'm not going to point fingers. If anything, I'm going to say, hey, good for you for getting this far on this type of system. I think the difficult part of that, though, and the reality that many organizations are going to run into, composable architecture is the state of the future. You have the composable, you have your monolithic. We've talked about this a lot. As you look at just the technology platform that underpins your business, tech's going to move faster and faster. You're going to want optionality. And I think the next frontier for many of these distributors is not necessarily in what's the best LLM or brand new tool. It's in the integration layer. When you onboard a new technology partner that has AI as part of their solution set, I think the future is actually going to be, hey, you have a great software kind of process that you're running through, but I have my own AI. Can I bring my own AI into that? That my AI is trained on our people, our orders, our pricing. It knows all the lingo that we have. I want to integrate that in. But oh, you also do business with one of my competitors, I want to make sure that my information doesn't get into their hands. So instead of a technology company bringing an AI solution and you providing your data so that AI can use it, I think we're going to see the opposite. And we're also going to, meaning where a distributor or an industrial brings their AI and asset to be involved. I think we're also going to see a lot of distributors turn into developers
Hmm.
where IT within distribution, and there's certainly exceptions to this, especially as you get larger organizations, but IT within distribution has primarily been a configuration job,
Hmm.
making sure that the light,
Configuration, maintenance, administration.
exactly, making sure that runs versus, hey, Claude Code, I need to write a system that helps me integrate my inventory. Can you go write that for me?
Or, "Hey, lovable, I wanna." I've been, and that was actually gonna be my
Totally.
next question, so
Yeah,
you
man.
beat me to the punch. I have wanted to create software for a very long time. I'm a very technical non-coder,
There you go.
but there are lots of
But you're a
softwares
good
that
communicator, Jason.
I'd like to think it's what my bread and
Hey,
butter
yeah,
is,
you
but
get 500 episodes into a podcast. You better be a good communicator, man.
yeah, and look, I tell you, I have been blown away. I'm creating a Jason AI right now, trained on all my podcast content. I looked out to the market. There was nothing out in the market that did what I wanted it to do. I want to actually create it as a companion app for my customers that want to be part of my cohort based. I'm creating a new cohort based group coaching and consulting model.
Very cool.
And that's going to form an on ramp and an off ramp from my one-to-one consulting, the
Sure.
large scale consulting engagements. And I wanted to create a companion app for that group based engagement where people can actually query all of my content with specific questions. And there was nothing out there to be able to do exactly what I wanted. And so I've started to build an app in Lovable to do exactly that. It's ingesting all of the transcripts from my YouTube videos,
Cool.
and it is creating a vector store for all that data. Then
Yeah,
I'm learning through this process of how, with cosine based relevance and setting all the indexes up and all that sort of stuff. I am learning so much about AI. And if this thing pops up, I am under no illusion that I wouldn't want to bring this development in house at some point. But
totally.
for rapid prototyping and from getting from 0 to 1 and creating the admin UI and then the chat UI on top of that and getting something that is at least a workable prototype, this is awesome. It allows somebody very cheaply, for less than $1,000 worth of credits across all the systems I'm using, to get to a prototype that is a working prototype that then, if it pops off and I want to bring that development in-house, I can hand that over to a competent developer who can maintain the code, maintain the
Yeah,
database, lock it all down, secure it, version control it, all the rest. But at least I have something to show the developer and say, this is what I'm trying to achieve,
totally.
as opposed to simply trying to write a BRD that's a 30-page BRD document and then
Which can never contain enough detail.
correct. So I'm a big fan of show don't tell, and I think that these vibe coding platforms are allowing us to get from 0 to 1 faster than ever before. What is your
The
take?
speed of creation is massive. There's a lady that I work with. Her name's Patty. She is just so awesome. And she shared recently, right now, too often in distribution, we're working at the pace as distribution is, not as it will be. We don't talk about just one, the joy it is to create, to take an idea that you have and to go create it with the technology that there's previously been a barrier to. This was a skills based industry
Yes.
within technology and software development. Being able to do that. It's funny as you're sharing about your vibe coded platform that you have for creating content and have that being part of the cohort. I assume there's going to be some AI bot out there that takes the transcript of this video, puts you into some sequence, and you're going to have
Yep.
someone, because I see these people on LinkedIn all the time. They say they're vibe code spaghetti fixers,
Yes.
where they're saying core software developers are actually feeling that this vibe coding, it's been pretty polarizing, that it either is a really great gift or it has no future whatsoever. I'm an AI optimist where I think AI, the pace of it's going to continue to advance. One interesting trend, again, we're sitting at early to mid Q4 2025, you and I, Jason, right now. The the length of task that an AI tool can go and complete autonomously for the last 3 years has been doubling every 7 months. Most people don't
Wow.
recognize right now that today, if you go download Claude Code or you go download Codex, and there's others that are out there. You have Cursor, you have Windsurf, you have Copilot and GitHub. I know Claude Code and Codex the best. And these are all the foundation models that like Replit and Lovable are built off of.
Yes.
But those two applications right now, you can take it, integrate it into your repository so it understands in context all of the code and libraries, how you have it set up, and you can give it a request in natural language in English. Hey, go create this feature for me. It will go scan the repository, make a plan, create the BRD based off of that, ask you
Yes.
for confirmation, go write the feature code, go integrate it, write the unit testing to go review it, spin up an environment to go deploy it, then create an agent that goes and uses a computer through the browser to go review it, take pictures of it, use computer vision, and on until it says, I didn't just do this, I did it and I verified that it's working and it's good to go. This right there, that piece of technology is actually what most companies that are building AI tooling sets, they're using that. So they're not vibe coding where you go to
Yes.
Lovable and Replit. I use Lovable all the time to spin up quick prototypes, especially for visualization purposes. But just AI coding agents are increasing at a rate that it's exponential. It's almost parabolic in how good they have gotten. And so I think many organizations, these industrial companies, they're going to have expectations, or you'll start to see them hiring raising the bar on the technical competency of IT people. And I think it's really exciting that more and more that'll be brought in house. There'll be that expectation there because I want to see these companies win no matter what. And they're going to need training. They're going to need the coaching. They're going to need the roadmap on how to get there. And that's the area that we want to play in.
And I also think that the cool thing about this is it is going to facilitate these distribution companies being able to better vet and ask questions of and select software development partners,
Yeah.
e-commerce development partners, IT houses, third-party offshore developers, whatever it might be. It is going to put them in a position where they can take a really rough prototype of something to that software development house or that e-commerce partner, whatever it is, and say, look, we've gotten this from 0 to 1. We know it's a rough diamond,
Yep.
but this gives you an idea of what we're trying to achieve. This gives
Yeah.
you an idea. You can take it from 1 to 100 for us, but at least you have a starting point that isn't just, oh, you're going to come in and take a bunch of notes and then create a bunch of wireframes and everything else. No, we've got a working rough version of this that then we need to take to the next level. But it's going to serve to accelerate development even via partners.
Totally.
Because you now are able to select partners that are a better fit. You are going to be able to ask them questions around the tooling they use to automate their work. You're going to be able to say, what code partnership technologies do you use? What AI agents are you using? What,
Yeah.
are you using Claude Code? And then also, when those agencies and when those partners come back to you and say, this project is going to be a $300,000 project, you now all of a sudden are going to have more empathy and understanding as the buyer. You're going to go,
Yeah.
okay, that
Yeah.
now makes sense. Because before, oftentimes people would go, what we want seems simple. Why is it a $300,000 project?
Oh, you're
And they're
talking my life for the last decade, Jason.
and I think this is going to bring I have so much just by using Lovable. I have so much more respect for developers. I
Oh
have
yeah.
so much respect for AI,
Totally.
AI first develop. Like I have so much more respect, and I've always had respect for developers because I've always spoken the language of developers, and I've always had to work with developers for my entire career. So I've
Yeah.
always had respect for them, but I have a newfound respect for them.
Yeah. It really opens your mind to what's required in order to make software and technology that works at enterprise scale, that works as reliably as it does.
Yes,
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. So a big part of what I do in my engagement with organizations is to show them the art of the possible and then to quickly say, okay, you saw what's possible. Here's where you are now. How do we work through those steps in order to get you there? So I was at a conference, and when you think about e-commerce, who's really driving the ship on what gets built for e-commerce? How do we model what the customer journey is? How do we build the right features? How do we do that in a way that it's going to get used, taking customer feedback, all that sort of stuff? Too many times I've seen marketing teams be involved where there's a lot of tension between the marketing team and the development team, whether that's in-house or whether that's a third party that comes in. And it's because marketing hasn't had the ability, and that's not that they couldn't use Figma or couldn't use mockups and wireframes. If they could, they just didn't have time to do that. They didn't have the
yes.
ability to truly express their creativity, and there was a gap between what the creative saw and what the practical side, the engineering team saw. in actually making that happen. And I think that's why you've seen, I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here, what organizations I think themselves would consider subpar digital customer experiences. It's not for lack of vision by the marketing team. Oftentimes, sometimes it might be, but oftentimes it's not. It's based off of a PRD. You're trying to explain a complex vision in words on a page versus
Yes.
saying, here's your canvas. Because most people now know kind of what looks good, what feels good. They know how to explain it, but explaining it, you and I could say the same thing 10 times and we're going to get different meanings out of it. Human communication, adding all these different areas where we're still going to have the Word document, but we're also going to have a data model. We're also going to have a couple of mock-ups, and not just mock-ups, an actual interactive website that shows how
Yes.
we want the product detail page laid out by different product category we have, et cetera. So I think that creation process is a big opportunity for these companies that, again, are going to have to compete digitally more and more.
And I'd love to get your take on your view of just how important just the fact that AI is now multimodal, in my opinion, the multimodality of most large language models now is the thing that has completely exploded the use cases where AI works, right?
It's
Uh,
overwhelming, Jason. It's overwhelming for a lot of organizations. Yeah.
yeah, and the fact that I can upload an image, ChatGPT, I can upload a CSV, I can upload a PDF. I've used this example on the podcast before. I was recently, a few months ago, looking to buy a dirt bike, and I was looking and I ended up buying one. But when I was looking on Facebook Marketplace, oftentimes the make and the model would be there, but they wouldn't have the year of the dirt bike. And
Sure.
so I started downloading images of these bikes,
And you would
uploading them
load
to
it to
Chat.
ChatGPT and ask it for the year.
Yeah, and I would say, tell me everything you know about this bike, and it would say, based on this, this, and this, it looks like it's this year, it's this make, it's this
Isn't that
model,
incredible?
it's got these aftermarket components,
Yeah.
and or it's this year range. And I was at, I even me I'm a reasonably cutting edge tech adoption guy, but even me, AI still surprises me. So I now redirect all. I have a plugin in my Brave browser that redirects all my queries directly into ChatGPT. I can't remember the last time I used a Google search,
Yeah.
and I am still today surprised almost every single day with the advancements in
Well,
AI.
I think you're not the only one, and I'm not talking about me. Even the researchers that are working at these frontier labs, so you're talking OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta, even they're surprised at just how well deep learning has worked. So what the concept that you're talking about there is when researchers were taking the entirety of the internet, everything that's ever been written, every book, transcripts, audio, images, and they ran it through a deep learning model, and then they put transformer architecture on top of it in order to create output. They had no idea what they were unlocking, where it was able to make connections and had capabilities that it wasn't initially designed to have. That breaks our whole paradigm on how software works, where we needed to write out exactly what's needed, write the software in order to get there. And that's why people are so excited about large language models, is because it did that based off of all the data that exists right now. When we throw more compute at it, and distributors and people like you and me, we're never, I don't know about you, but I don't own any compute myself. I
No,
license all
no,
of it. And I don't know if I ever will. I guess I've never actually really thought about it, but I have no plan to. But the more compute we throw, which is why we see data centers, the better and the deeper the answers get. So, a great example is take a product picture that you have of an image from your website and go ask it to fill out a CSV with, hey, here's all the information that I need in order to have really robust product data about this.
yep,
And just with a super simple prompt like that, we haven't given it any reinforcement criteria to say, hey, here's a previous example. This is what we're looking
no
for.
inference, nothing.
People are blown away. And I think I'll say this, you and I, we live in a bubble within a bubble. Most people don't know that's possible. And you have product companies that are trying to sell them on the idea of agents
Yep,
when they don't even know that you can go in and you can have ChatGPT or a large language model. And I use ChatGPT to represent any
generically,
LLM.
yeah.
They think you can use it to write emails, to write funny poems for your kids or your grandkids. They're not thinking about it as product data. They're not thinking about it as, hey, how do I go and segment my customers and then put together a personalized outreach program, all generated by AI in a way that pulls in industry, geography, recent updates to them as individuals,
Mhm.
all of that. And it does it across all 10,000 of my customers without me having to spend all sorts of time. So that area is good. I think a really big area that is going to become important within distribution is going to be voice. It's not there yet. I know a couple
Yes.
of companies that have voice agents that work. You can talk to this agent. It sounds somewhat natural.
Yes.
And if you weren't in the AI space, you might think they're like a robotic sounding human. You're like, oh, that person just doesn't have a personality.
Yeah.
Uh, you and I would be able to pick up on it really quickly, but it's low latency. We're talking like you're waiting less than a second or two for it to respond. It's
Yeah.
pretty accurate. You can program it to say ums and kind of
My
laugh and
S25 Ultra does real-time translation and voice calls.
wild. So right now, most distributors I know very few that are actually putting that tech in front of customers. The ones that are doing it after hours and on the weekends to start in order to
Yes.
engage,
Yes.
perfect example to it. I know of one that's offering a discount to say, hey, for your first 3 orders that you place through our voice bot, we'll give you 5% off just to test what that looks like in that process. But
Wow.
doing it widely at scale, voice generation, the latency, how human like that sounds, that's coming. And all of a sudden, all of those interactions where you're reaching out to vendors, maybe suppliers, you're having to communicate back and forth with customers, you're having to do collections, all sorts of stuff like that. Yeah, that's a next level area. But the underlying principles of integration and your business context are still going to be really important.
Man, couldn't agree more. Listen, this has been a amazing
We
conversation.
covered a lot of ground, didn't we, man?
We covered a lot. I could talk to you for another 3 hours about this. We'll have to get you back on again, and we'll have to go
Yeah,
down
man.
some other rabbit holes that I wanted to cover. But look, if people want to get a hold of you, I will drop a link to your LinkedIn profile and your website on the show notes.
Yeah.
Other than that, how do you like people to get a hold of you and chat to you about all things AI and distribution?
Yeah, so LinkedIn's the best way to do that. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I post regularly tips that distributors can use to think about AI as a strategic part of their business, as well as super practical ideas. We like to keep it fun. So LinkedIn, connect with me there. Send me a DM if you're interested in talking more. I'm also on X with my name, Nick Pericle, and I follow really forward-thinking tech trends, not always specifically related to distribution, but I'm on X and I like to engage on there. So those are the two best ways to get in touch with me. Would love to
I love
connect with
it.
anyone and everyone who's interested in this topic.
I love it. And a little birdie told me that you're going to be shortly releasing your own podcast around AI and distribution. First of all, is that true?
That
Second of
is
all,
very true, Jason. Yes,
okay.
I'm very excited about it, and hopefully we're
Do we
going to
have an
make a big
ETA for
splash
the
in it.
first episode drop?
We're hoping that it's going to be before the end of the year, before
Love it.
Thanksgiving. Before Thanksgiving is what we're aiming for.
You heard it here first, folks. Follow Mr. Nick Pericle on LinkedIn first and primarily, and you'll get all of the latest information on his new podcast, Drop. Now, I've started to ask this question as a final question on
All
all my
right.
podcast episodes. If you could change one thing about our industry, whether that be e-commerce or in your case AI, if you could change one thing at the snap of your fingers about your industry, our industry, what would it be?
That's a great question. Too often we hear the phrase, "Hey, don't be afraid to try things and fail," but I don't think our industry really means that.
Yep,
I know of an organization where they say, "Hey, failing is not part of our culture. We don't fail." And
that's
I think
scary.
there's a little bit of a cop out to be like, "Oh, we fail on things." And the goal is not to fail. The goal is to win and to win massively. But what failing means is you're trying things that are outside of your comfort zone and out of the norm. And so, if I could change and snap of fingers, I'd say uh, the willingness to engage, to try things, and then to be able to say, "Hey, that didn't work," and to move on without getting discouraged, and to continue to move forward in a spirit of optimism. That's what I'd say. The other thing that I'd
I,
say is, hey, tariffs, there's a lot to look down on, to be down about in our industry with tariffs and rising trade costs and margin compression and things like that. I'd say, man, there's a spirit of optimism we can do right now with the energy that's coming into the industry from outside, the interest that there is, what you are now capable of doing with AI in your hands. So if I had a second wish, I'm maybe getting a little greedy here, Jason, but I'd say
oh yeah.
I would instill a spirit of optimism in everyone that's operating in distribution. because we're here for the long haul.
Man, I couldn't agree more. I take the idea and I try to apply this realistically daily in my own life. I either win or I
Yeah,
learn.
man.
And learning is a perfectly acceptable outcome
It
of
is.
curiosity. So that's
Totally.
I don't think of it as win or lose or pass fail. I look at it as win or learn, and both of
I
those are
love it.
acceptable outcomes.
Love it, man.
Now, as we do come down to the end of our time together, this is where I get to flip the script. I get to hand the microphone over to you. I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. It could be personal or professional. Mr. Nick Pericle, what is your question for me today?
Oh, what I'd ask, Jason, is I like to ask this. There's a lot of newcomers into the industry right now. So there's people that are either being hired to work within a distributor, within an industrial company, or you have folks that are coming in providing tech solutions. What do you think they're like? What's a piece of advice that you could give them that would help accelerate their learning and their understanding of the industry? What's something that most people don't get that you only get after hard fought wins of being here a decade or two?
Yeah, I think active participation and engagement in the industry. I doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on B2B commerce broadly when I started my consultancy. I had already worked in the space via agency work previously anyway, but it wasn't 100% of my work. Like I was still consulting to retail e-commerce merchants alongside some manufacturer and distribution merchants. And so even I had to actively join the B2B EA. I had to actively take their training and certification. I had to actively reach out to them and say, "Hey, are you looking for an MC for your
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
conferences?" I had to reach out to people in the industry. I had to actively connect with them on LinkedIn. I had to ask them to come on the podcast.
Totally.
I had to subscribe to the AEM industry newsletter. I had to start going to industry and vertical specific B2B conferences. I had to
Love it.
just decide. I had to decide I am going to engage. I am going to become embedded in. I am going to become friends with experts in this space. I am
Yeah.
going to learn. I'm a natural autodidactic learner anyway, but I just decided I got to jump in, boots and all, into this thing. If I want to become a part of this community, then I have to act like it.
Exactly.
Then
Yeah.
I have to want it.
Yeah. It's so great that you share that. It Distribution, these supply chain companies are a community. And too often you're trying to break into the community and be a part of it. The best way to do that is to feel the weight of the community and help lift that weight. Be a part. Yep.
Totally.
I love it.
Carry the burden, carry the burden. That way you become a peer instead of someone that like people look up to you or put you on a pedestal. No, I just
Oh,
want to be
you're
a
a
peer.
peer. You're here to help. Hey, let's put our shoulder to the wheel together on this. I love
T-
it.
Listen, my friend, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You're a genius in the space. Everybody should go and follow Mr. Nick Pericle. I can't wait to see you in Scottsdale, Arizona. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.
Can't wait, Jason. See you soon.
Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.